Andy Farrell has named his coaching ticket for the British and Irish Lions tour to Australia this summer. And what does it mean for the selection that we're going to see? Is there anything we can read into this in terms of players that are more likely or less likely to go because of the way that these coaches set up their teams? Equally, is there anything we can read into this into how the British and Irish Lions are going to play? And also, what is the distribution of labour going to be between these 5 assistant coaches? There's no actual job titles with the announcement that's come today, so we can do a little bit of digging there. Lots to talk about. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the coaching selections. There's 5 assistant coaches that Andy Farrell has made. You've got John Dale, you've got Simon Easterby, Andrew Goodman, Richard Wigglesworth, and John Fogarty. And the first thing to say is there's a very Irish flavour, which apparently could have even been more Irish, but for the fact that apparently Paul O'Connell withdrew himself from the race. He could have been in the forwards coaching staff, but pulled out, and he's now going to take up the role as interim Ireland head coach because Simon Easterby is one of the coaches that has gone on the trip. Now, some people have criticised this is too Irish. There's no Welsh influence on this particular coaching ticket. But I understand it. Look back 4 years and Warren Gatland selected a coaching ticket with a very, very Welsh flavour. Gregor Townsend went, but other than that, it was people, well, it was Welsh or part of Warren Gatland's actual setup that he knew very, very well. And I think that's really important. The Lions tours these days are really condensed affairs. Only, less than a couple of months. You've got to get together and get a team ready to go out and play Test rugby. There's a lack of cohesion in the playing squad because the players get thrown together, and that is the beauty of the Lions. But you can control a level of cohesion with the coaches, and so I understand Andy Farrell going for that. We're not able to make any bald jokes this time. It was a very follically challenged coaching ticket last time round. Not the case with Andy Farrell's picks, but what does it mean for the tour? Let's have a look at what the picks are. Firstly, John Dale, and I'll tell you what, he's a bit of an under-the-radar pick. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. I just know I knew someone else that had this surname, and you pronounce their name Dale, but hopefully, John, I'm getting that right because I don't actually know. What I do know is that he's a very respected forwards coach for Scotland. Previously with their Sevens team, he was head coach there and of the under-20 side. And as I mentioned, my understanding is, although I don't know this firsthand, is that Paul O'Connell was the front runner or would have been Andy Farrell's first choice to get this role. But without him, John Dale steps in, and he'll definitely have a focus on the line out, no question. Again, I'm assuming he's the forwards coach. That would be my guess. But he'll have very much a focus on the line out, which, Scotland won more line outs than any other team in the recent Six Nations. He's done a good job there. Some people have sort of said, hold on a minute, and I'll come to Richard Wigglesworth and Andrew Goodman, maybe on the attacking side of things, where Ireland and England haven't looked the most fluent. Scotland do have a really good attacking setup, and their forwards maybe are the weak link of that team, and yet you've got the Scotland forwards coach. I think with the resources that Scotland have, John Dale does a really, really decent job. And actually, I think it's fair to say there's quite a few Scotland players who look at their best when they're wearing the blue of Scotland. And I think that speaks to this guy. And it's also worth pointing out, what are the other options? Steve Borthwick looks after the England pack. They've done really well, but he's England's head coach. He's going nowhere. Wales are in a very unstable position. Paul O'Connell ruled himself out. So Scotland's John Dale it is. I think, as I say, he will be forward coach. John Fogarty is on board. He is the Ireland scrum coach, which he's been for 4 or 5 years now. And before that, he was 4 or 5 years doing the same role for Leinster. And he steps up to the British and Irish Lions. So I imagine John Dale will be probably the main man with the forwards. John Fogarty with a specific focus on the scrum, but assisting John Dale. And he's well known to Andy Farrell. And yeah, no arguments there. Simon Easterby then. I wasn't expecting to see his name because he was the interim head coach for Ireland through the Six Nations Championship. But he's taken up the role, of course, and he has, a massive amount of experience on the defensive side of things, which is where I think he will be deployed. Now, this guy knows how not to coach a British and Irish Lions tour because he was on the 2005 tour. He was called up as a replacement in what was the most basket case, ridiculous, awful job that any head coach has ever done. Clive Woodward just did not get what the Lions were, did not honour the traditions, thought he knew better, having a World Cup in the trophy cabinet, and he was brilliant at that, but not for the Lions. It was a disaster. So Simon Easterby obviously has got the experience of knowing how to do it well himself, but he's also got the experience of having experienced how you don't coach a Lions tour. I imagine, like I say, he will be the defence coach for the British and Irish Lions. On to Andrew Goodman, another one out of the Irish stable, although he's a Kiwi. He hasn't been in Ireland for that long. He came over for the start of the 2023 season to look after Leinster's attack. They got beaten in that Champions Cup final, like by the narrowest of margins. Missed out on masterminding that victory that they were craving, and then he got it was only a couple of months into the following season that he replaced Mike Catt as Ireland's attack coach. Now, some people have criticised this selection because they've pointed to the fact that Ireland's attack hasn't been as fluent as it normally is. There's been a bit of a shift in their mindset, a little bit more of a kick focus. But he's very, very highly rated. Just look at the job he did with Crusaders and how well he got them motoring. He also, like I say, Leinster were within a hair's breadth of winning the Champions Cup with Andrew Goodman running the attack, which was really, really fluent. And he's clearly, you can tell by the way he keeps being elevated, and now to the British and Irish Lions, that Andy Farrell rates this guy massively. So I'm willing to trust Faz on that one, despite the criticisms that have come Andrew Goodman's way. And finally, Richard Wigglesworth from England. He looks after England's attack. My guess is he will kind of be the number 2 behind Andrew Goodman. They'll both have a backs or attack focus. Could even be the case that Richard Wigglesworth is looking after the kicking side of things. I mean, he was one of the best box kickers in the business when he was a player with Saracens, winning all those Champions Cups. But he looks after England's attack, which has been improving. He said in the interview, Richard Wigglesworth said he has to try and stifle his excitement because if he let his true emotions out, he'd be doing cartwheels across the stage. He feels very, very lucky to be there. Some people might say he is lucky to be there given England's attack. But again, I actually think he's a really good coach. Skills base and the knowledge that he can pass on is second to none in the kicking side of things. And also just look at the process of elimination. Scotland's attack is really good and fluent, but Gregor Townsend's the guy behind that. He's the head coach. So bearing in mind, he's got a bit of pressure. He might want to see the evolution of his Scotland team and all those youngsters next year. So that is no Welsh coaches. My idea is get Dave's coaches from Gavin and Stacey as the team bus. That can be the Welsh coach that is on the British and Irish Lions tour. They have got bigger things to sort out in Wales, haven't they? And Japan, that tour there is first among them. So I understand why there's no Welsh coaches on this one. There is the team then, the 6 men. So Andy Farrell, clearly the head coach. I think the way it's going to break down, and this is where I'm only guessing, so let me know what you think. Simon Easterby will be running the defence. But Andy Farrell, as a player, his defence was unbelievable. When he came through as a coach initially, he had a defence focus, bringing that rugby league experience. So I imagine he, alongside Simon Easterby, will kind of take care of that. Andy Farrell will obviously delve into other areas and overarch the whole thing. The backs will be Andrew Goodman and Richard Wigglesworth. I think Goodman, the main man, and his number 2, maybe looking after skills and kicking, Richard Wigglesworth. And in the forwards, the same thing goes. John Fogarty will kind of be assisting John Dale. And that's how I think it breaks down. 6 is a decent number, 5 assistants. You've got your amount of specialism. Back in the day with Ian McGeechan and Jim Telfer, it was 1 for the backs, 1 for the forwards, and that was it. But then again, Clive Woodward in 2005 took 9 coaches. I think that was probably overkill. There you go. There's my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Hit subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next one.